Good morning. My name is Dr. Brian Garrett. I want to first thank you for taking the time to watch and listen to this. Secondarily, I want to thank Rico for including me in this event. It's something that's very close to my heart, is the idea of taking care of yourself, because when it comes to health, 85% of all disease is lifestyle. So I'm a federal medical examiner, a chiropractor, a sports kinesiologist, a clinical acupuncturist, disability analyst, and a clinical nutritionist. I've been practicing for 34 years in downtown San Diego. And if you want to look at my website, I'm at www.drbriangarrett.com. And if you want to email, you can email at info@drbriangarrett.com. So yeah, I've been involved in a lot of different specialties. Now I'm doing mostly injury rehabilitation, pain management, and sports kinesiology. But I've also trained in the martial arts for a very long time, and I have multiple black belts and also a doctor of martial arts medicine. So in the United States, in 2020, it's about to be 2021, hopefully we'll get better. But we're number one in healthcare costs, we're number one in prescriptions, we're number 38 in children's well-being, and number 34 in longevity. So we got a lot of ways to go, and some things you can't help. I think for emergency medicine, we can admit that the United States is probably the best or one of the best in the world. But, diet and exercise aren't really considered in any type of serious manner. It's talked about, but nothing's ever done. So a few facts that I like to always show: that there's toxic food. Over 1 billion tons of pesticide products are used every year in the United States, and that's from the EPA. And I don't know if you know, we just finished that Roundup lawsuit. So, there's no drug without side effects. There's no chemicals that don't have some effect on the body. In fact, there are things called forever chemicals that never get out of the body. The best example of that was DDT, which was a pesticide in the 60s, and they found it in the polar bear's liver, and they banned it in the U.S., but it's probably being used other places in the world. So this book here just talks about how we're using different food processing, drug manufacturing. We're trusting man, which man has done great things, but it's really decimated the health of our nation. Now the good news is life expectancy in 1900, I think, was about 40 years old in the United States, and now it's 78 for men and 81 for women. So that's great. But my hope is to give you information, to give you perspective, and inspire you to take care of yourself. So, the conclusion. I'll give you my conclusion first, that diet and lifestyle predict mortality. Fast food, 1 out of 3 kids today eat fast food every day. Excessive sugar, lack of exercise, depression, and stress are the main problems. You got to keep in mind, we have 22 of our military guys killing themselves every day, and 125 people a day dying from Oxycontin and fentanyl. So my cure is things that you can control: are clean water, organic food, proper supplementation, stress reduction, exercise, mindfulness, meditation, prayer, and service to a cause better than yourself. So stress is the first thing, and I think part of it is we get ourselves stressed out. That's why I take time to meditate daily. But it causes bad things. 1 year of back pain shrinks the brain to the level of 10 to 20 years. So making back pain go away, but other stress can affect decision making, working memory, mood, impulses, and actually there's shrinkage of the brain itself. And one of the things that we'll talk about later, so the medial prefrontal cortex is the executive area. That's how you run your life. There's also this area here called the amygdala, which is a big hitter in the stress game. I think I say later that PTSD, this is enlarged, and in depression, it's shrink. So the amygdala turns on or off the stress hormones, and we need it sometimes, but we're doing it too much now. And so what happens with stress, it actually makes the hypothalamus pituitary axis go, and it increases adrenal activity, which secretes cortisol, which will help for injury. And we need cortisol, but the problem is most people have it too much, and cortisol over time can dissolve your brain. So as a chiropractor, we look at, we fix misalignments and make people feel better. But in reality, in kinesiology, we look at posture as an indicator of how you're doing in overall health. So your ears should be over your shoulder, through your hips, and down to the bottom of your foot. Most people, and myself included, have to work on that. I do exercises every day to try to bring the head back over the body. And so one of the things that you find is that the lung capacity goes down about 30%. Also, there's a study here in the Journal of American Geriatric Society where older men and women with kyphotic posture, which is the leaning forward like that, have higher mortality rates. They die younger and get more diseases. So the Mayo Clinic says forward head posture leads to long-term muscle strain, disc herniations, arthritis, and pinched nerves. And that was reported in Spine 1999. We talked earlier about the amygdala, very important. I don't think we know enough about what it does yet, but you can see that a PTSD patient has problems, and they need to be dealt with and as naturally as possible, because every drug has side effects, including aspirin. So one of the things that I'll do, I'll go back and forth. Here is some suggestion. There's a technique called emotional freedom technique. I think you can learn it for free on the internet. So it might be something to consider. And it's just a matter of tapping different points with different affirmations. So I use it. And actually, it's accepted by the American Psychological Society. And so people are doing it. And I think it's a great thing. And actually, it's a spin-off of applied kinesiology and very effective. So I wanted to, let me see if I can move this. So if you look here in top 10 countries with highest life expectancy at birth, we're not in there. We're number 49, and still 78 versus 40, that's still 38 years longer. But people die from chronic disease, not infection like they did in 1900. Thank God for antibiotics. But like any medication, too much can be a problem too. So mindfulness training skills, shift away from rumination and worrying. I do hot yoga, and that really helps me. And they're actually starting to use these in schools instead of detention, and it actually has had great results. So yeah, when it comes to kids, we're not really taking care of our kids. 1 in 3 kids eats fast food every day, and you can see the progression over time. And I'm not making fun of the kid, but, the average American drinks 40,000 sodas in a lifetime, and I don't drink any. I'm not against soda, but it's just not worth the calories. And, increasing your glycemic index is a precursor to sugar handling problems, which for sure I don't want to get diabetes, and I'm sure none of you do either. So here I just wanted to show this idea that there's big money in pharmaceuticals, so there's an incentive for the machine, the American medical machine, to use medications with insurance and drug companies. But this guy at Regeneron's making $130,000 a day, Merck $52,000 a day, $61,000. That'd be great, but I don't know. I'm not into the marketing thing of drugs. I'm into natural health. But also health insurance companies. This guy at Cigna makes $84,000 a day, United $119,000 a day. I don't know what it means. I just know that I don't want them to make money off of my disease. I want to stay healthy. In fact, I used to have a line called, "How do you live to 100 and not regret it?" And that is by taking care of yourself the best you can. No guarantees, but try your best. If we looked at what it's costing, 14% of our money is going towards dealing with obesity. And I don't want to make it like a weakness of the mind or bad or evil, because, you know, fat shaming doesn't work either. I want to empower people so they can, one step at a time, start from walking and then go to what they love and become their true self. I don't think anybody who's morbidly obese would say, yeah, this is who I am. And you got to remember, there's all kinds of chemicals out there that we probably don't even know about, but we know about the ones in the food and the water and the air. So yeah, air pollution, water pollution, pharmaceuticals, genetically modified foods, pesticides, trans fatty acids. But again, I want to say that now it's true that more people are dying from legal medications than illegal medications. So something to think about. In fact, new studies have linked heart disease to sugar. And I think I have something later in what Dr. Hawes says about sugar. And they say sugar is as addictive as cocaine, so better to get off of it. But, the United States is one of the most stressed out nations in the world. And you have to mitigate your own stress, because stress will kill you in the end. Stress affects the brain by having the adrenal glands go, secreting adrenaline and cortisol, interrupting the autonomic nerve system, and then you go into fight or flight. And then plus cortisol can dissolve brain cells. And this is a more complex, there should be, this right here is a feedback mechanism, but a lot of times that's broken. Same thing. So the father of stress was Dr. Hans Selye, who did research on rats that you probably couldn't do today. But he found out that over time, there's 3 stages of stress. There's the alarm stage, the resistance stage, and the exhaustion phase. And there were 3 systems affected. There was digestion, hormones, and immune system. So we've got to, I think that's my number one thing. But I work out to mitigate stress. In fact, I try not to think about or try to fix things I can't do anything about. I do what I can, then I go on to what I can do about. So yeah, we go back to the alarm stage, the resistance, and the exhaustion stage. And hopefully you'll recover from that, but you can actually have illness and death come from chronic stress. So it's really about balancing out mind, body, spirit. And that's the same philosophy we have in the martial arts. It's a little bit different now because, you're either in martial arts or either in general going to be an MMA fighter and, get in the ring and go for it. And then you'll end up with the same head injuries and brain injuries that boxers get. Or you'll be into forums. I think any martial art is great for self-defense and self-awareness. In fact, this was in the Sports Medical Journal this year, and it says that consistent exercise reduces depression and anxiety. So that's pretty nice. So it's good to just reiterate that over and over, because it's the one place you do have power. Now, I don't know what percentage of people have metabolic syndrome, but it's made up of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high waist, over 40 for a man and 35 for a woman, and it can lead to dementia and heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes. So metabolic syndrome is something that exercise for sure will help with. You can have all kinds of things. You can get sleep apnea from it, asthma, gout, degeneration, diabetes, stroke, heart attack, polycystic ovarian disease, and infertility. But I like to say this because this is how I think about, I don't want to wish for an easy way or get out of something. I want to be able to have the strength to fight it. And my goal, of course, is peace, unity, and harmony. But I have to do that within myself. So this is a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials. So there's going to be problems in life. It's how you deal with them. So this is just all the ones in red are the high obesity states in the United States. And all the ones in red here are the guys who exercise, which I'm in California, so we do pretty well here. Other things, this is Tai Chi for helping people with type 2 diabetes. But I am kind of blown away when I meet diabetics and they still eat sugar. You know, that's their choice. And, you know, and they'll pay the price for it, I say. So here they're using Tai Chi would be a great intervention. And I do love it for peace of mind. So this was the United States Department of Education. The 2 most common causes of disability are back problems and heart disease. So take care of yourself on that. Remember, every 1.5 seconds, someone in the United States is disabled in an injury. So you have to take care of yourself. Again, this is the Nursing and Clinical North America in 2000 said Tai Chi can be used as an intervention for heart failure. Pretty amazing. And even Qigong, which I'm experimenting with now. So stay tuned. But this is from the New York Times. You know, this lady has a lot of medications, and, you know, I don't know what would go away, but Dr. What is her last name? Dr. Sherry Rogers said the sick body cannot rally if it is busy detoxifying pesticides and other chemicals. So try to eat clean as you can. And here they showed from the Environmental Working Group proved that there were over 240 different toxins in the umbilical blood in a newborn baby. And even here, a representative from New York, who was 75 years old, they found more than 270 toxic chemicals in her blood. Hence, in my opinion, some of those are forever chemicals, and you've got to take supplements to overcome those. So this was in the Journal of Neurology in 2004. Up to 50% of all cases of chronic headaches are attributable to medication overuse. So someone who takes daily analgesic painkillers for more than 6 months, 20 times more likely to have chronic migraines, 10 times more likely to suffer non-migraine headaches, 3.5 times more likely to suffer chronic neck pain, 3.5 times more likely to suffer chronic low back pain. And that was 65,000 people. So even when the doctor says, yeah, you should take a baby aspirin, that'll decrease your heart attacks, and that is true, but it also increases your risk of stroke. So I'd rather take fish oils, you know. We are doing more and more surgeries as our people get older. United States is #1 in knee replacements and number 8 or 10 in hip replacement. Thank God. But, you know, I do kinesiology because I know how to fix the muscles and the ligaments and how the brain perceives these areas. So that's what we're about, is trying to make it so you can stay with all original equipment and throughout a lifetime. Although my MD got his both knees replaced at 75, and he's 91 now, and he plays tennis 3 days a week and works out at the gym 5 days a week. So, you know, but he's a, you know, he's a maniac. So yeah, you got to look back in the 70s. 45% of people were overweight. Now it's 74%, and rising. This is another great thing. This was in the Journal of Alternative Complementary Medicine in 2008. They were treating survivors of torture and refugee trauma with Qigong and Tai Chi. And that was at Boston University School of Medicine. So it's you know, I'm optimistic about the future. You know, I don't know if we can afford keep spending all that money in drugs and surgery when we could prevent a lot of it. Let's pretend we could prevent half of it with exercise. Prevent half of depression with exercise. So yeah, when I was a kid, I was actually put on Ritalin. And I don't know what the right amount is. I think we do 33 metric tons a year in this country. I did get off of it. And now, ironically, college kids are using it for study aids. They're using Ritalin and Adderall. So they're 1 in 15 kids. Yeah, 15 metric tons of Ritalin. So methylphenidate, which is Ritalin, increases cancer risk. You know, I just didn't feel good on it. It's speed. It's in the same category as methamphetamine. So this is use of antibiotics. 80% of antibiotics are used on the animals. So when you eat those products, you're killing some of the flora in your gut. So I don't think I put in the nutritional supplementation, but I would definitely look for a good probiotic that everybody can take. Or you could use fermented things like kimchi or sauerkraut. So those are some natural things. But you want to minimize antibiotics. And when you do, you have to go back and repopulate your gut. One of the things that I was telling someone the other day, that there are 85 billion neurons in the brain, but there's 100 billion neurons in the gut. There's more neurons in the gut than in the brain. So this is just talking about how important it is for kids to do omega-3s. It's one of the things I recommend, 5 grams a day. You can't overdose on that. You get a balanced one. And the number one thing is to make sure they're clean. 50% of fish oils are contaminated with heavy metals and PCBs and industrial compounds. So I probably wouldn't, if you get them cheap, you can get them cheap, but you might be taking in other chemicals. I'd make sure you do your homework on those. So this was a study done in pediatrics in 2006, and they said teenagers who exercise 5 or more times per week are less likely to have unprotected sex, smoke, drink and drive, less likely to use illegal drugs other than marijuana, less likely to miss time from school, less likely to have low self-esteem, more likely to wear a seatbelt, get A's, get a night's sleep, and do household chores. So would have been great to know that when I was a kid. So yeah, even in depression, they found that fish oils and walking is more effective than antidepressants. And you can see in this here, with chronic depression, there's a change in the frontal cortex. Remember we said earlier, that's in charge of executive function. So it causes a lot of problems. And I think I said earlier that 38% of Americans are taking antidepressants. So fish oils and walking seems a lot better because every drug has side effects. So this was a study. I do a technique called NET, neuro-emotional technique, and this was done, I think, in Chicago. And they showed before and after doing this technique on people who were cancer survivors, and they found a change in the amygdala. There was a shrinking of the amygdala for people with PTSD from that. So it's something to look for. You can find an NET practitioner in your area. You can call my office. I'll help you find somebody. So important that you get your sleep. I'm actually wearing a thing now when I sleep called a BioStrap, and it tells me, so much. It's amazing the information that it gives you, and it helps you. So it's a great thing. And what do they say? 27% of people have insomnia, and that is, as we continue to grow in kinesiology, we now have a technique for the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is one of the 11 nucleus in the hypothalamus that controls sleep, and it controls body rhythms. So it's an exciting time on the natural front. Sleep deprivation actually affects your hippocampus, and your hippocampus is super important. It's the one that gives you long-term memory. And actually the hippocampus is the only place, well, I won't say, that we know of today that when you do exercise, you make new neurons in your brain. So this is an article where they're talking about, in New England Journal of Medicine, where there's going to be a potential decline in life expectancy in the 21st century. This is the first generation of kids that aren't going to live as long as their parents. And the reason why, 1 out of 3 kids eats fast food every day. An average American eats drinks 43,000 sodas. So Dr. Oz says some great stuff.
That's why we like it so much. Yeah, but if you don't mind, I am going to blow your mind. Okay, go ahead. Because I'm going to show you what has happened with the amount of sugar that we eat in this country a year. It is 150 pounds. Each one of us eating this much sugar, Oprah, every single year. Now, here's what's really going to shock you. When you and I were born, and our generation was young, this is how much sugar that I left behind. All this is extra sugar Actually, it's 40 pounds of extra sugar that we're eating every single year, as opposed to just a generation ago. So you think about that. See how heavy that is? It is impossible for our body to keep up with that. There is no way we can adapt this quickly. Our ancestors never had to deal with this much sugar. And it's not just the sugar we're adding to our tea and coffee. Right. It's hitting in our condiments. It's hitting in our salad dressing. I bet you half the calories young women get in America is from salad dressing, and a lot of it's sugar. So this is what we're dealing with right now. We'll be right back.
Yeah, shocking. But again, it's in everything. I agree with them. And it's the number one thing that you can control yourself. So this is from 1960 to 2009. Obesity through the roof, diabetes through the roof. In fact, I think it was the Comptroller General in the United States in 2004. He said our healthcare system will go bankrupt because of diabetes. Remember, once your kidneys start to fail, you're looking at dialysis. And you can go blind. You can have amputations because of it. And look at the sugar. Went down a little bit here, but, you know, it's easy to gain weight in America. So this is just talking about environmental toxicity that can affect the newborn baby's brain, 200 plus toxins, minimal DHA. So the baby, remember, our brains are all fat, mostly. It's like Jell-O. So it's good to have fat. I probably take, I take the best essential fatty acids, fish oils that I can, and I take a lot of it. You can't OD on that. And chronic disease is the principal cause of disability and the use of health services, and it consumes almost 80% of the money that we're spending in healthcare is on chronic disease. And I put this little picture in there, you know, here she has her chips. Maybe the government paid for chips and a government Sprite and a free wheelchair. But that's not the life I want to live, and I don't think you'd want to either. You know, take care of yourself, or the mortician will. So Dr. Otto Warburg won a Nobel Prize in 1931, finding out that you can't get cancer in an alkaline environment. And problem is, you know, a lot of American lifestyle, a lot of American food are acidifying. In fact, you can do a test on yourself if you get some pH paper and your first urine in the morning and get the pH of it. It should be about 6.8, 6.08 to 7.1. So that's a very important thing to remember. You know, especially with acid foods. Number one vegetable in America is a French fry. 43,000 sodas in a lifetime. So it's pretty bad. Fruits and vegetables, an average American eats 1.7 helpings of fruits and vegetables a day, and one of those is a French fry. But the good news is, I hear this is wrong, it's actually 86 billion. A Brazilian scientist figured that out. But it's the number of neurons in the brain are equal to the trees in the Amazon forest. So therefore, the number of connections to your brain is as same as the number of leaves in the rainforest, about 1,000 trillion. And we make those up. If your body doesn't get input in a certain brain area, it kind of dries up. So you got to be learning. I learn every day myself. I just love it. You know, you got to find something that you love, and you got to do it that way. You got to find exercise that you love, and you got to do it that way, because you're not going to do something. There's no way you can work out for a lifetime doing an exercise or some chore or even your work. I love my work. You know, I feel sorry for people that don't love their work, but to me, that's what you know, my luck was. This here showed, and this was in Newsweek, that learning was 20% faster after intense exercise. Just, you know, interesting to know. And this was in the JAMA in 2008. 29% of Americans between 57 and 85 used at least 5 prescriptions at the same time. If we were number one in health, I'd be a bigger believer. But, you know, I'm a chiropractor, and a lot of chiropractors have a lot of beliefs about things in medicine not to use. I had cancer last year, and I'm grateful for the best healthcare system in the world. and they helped me with radiation and chemo, and I'm back to normal. But it took work, and showed you even with diet and exercise, stuff can happen. So it's you give yourself the best chances. But anyway, people take drugs. And so this is Jack LaLanne. A lot of you might be too young to remember Jack LaLanne, but he was the godfather of fitness, I'm going to call him. I know they were doing exercise throughout all time, but he really brought it. He had a TV show. He actually became famous for his juicer. But this isn't his quote. This is Socrates, I think. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So I wish one workout would fix you for your whole life, or one walk. But, I think it's about setting goals. I have goals that I'm working on all the time. And I had a coach once that said, goals are the fuel for the engine of success. Because if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? Yeah, here's Jack LaLanne. He had a TV show, kind of a nutrition nut. But you can't argue with success, because on his 70th birthday, he was shackled at the hands and feet. 70 rowboats with 70 people towed 1 mile through the Long Beach Harbor. I'm 60. I don't want to do that. But I wouldn't mind dropping by and clapping and encouraging him. But, what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? You have to look at that. So, yeah, we make a million new connections for every second of our lives, which is amazing. So be careful with your thoughts. Be careful with your actions. Yeah, here he says, an average American eats 110 pounds of French fries a year. 1/4 of our vegetables are eaten as French fries. So I'm an Irishman that doesn't like potatoes. To me, I'm not against them, but if you got into eating too many carbs, and it's a carb, there's no real nutrition value to it. It becomes sugar right away. It has a high glycemic index. And I'm not saying it is sugar. I'm not saying don't eat potatoes. But I don't know. You have to make up your own mind. Well, and that's true. There's an increase in breast cancer for each serving of French fry that a preschool diet of women had. Pretty shocking. 27%. That's what they said. I'm not saying it. So I wanted to show another thing. I didn't bring it with me, but I'm going to, and you can get a copy of this from me. I wanted to just show, this is the chest, the front view, the sternum, the thoracic outlet, the bottom of the ribs right here. And then these are the bottom of the back ribs. There are reflex points all over the place called Chapman reflexes. And in kinesiology, we call them neurolymphatics. But I wanted to just show where they are, because the next thing I'm going to show you is going to be overwhelming. And actually, when I was in the College of Kinesiology, we had to memorize this chart. But anyways, I show these on the back too, because there's these things called associated points back here in acupuncture that are related to the organs. So one of the things that I recommend also is rolling out, using a foam roller on your mid-back, if you can. Talk to your physician before you do that. And then you can roll out these points. They're not only reflex points, they're muscles. And now if we go here, look how many there are. The back of the body, there's a bunch. So I work on that. And different ones that I rub. These are the small intestine ones on the ribs. These are the small intestine ones on the inside of the thigh. And the large intestine ones on the outside. So I use those, the gallbladder here, the TMJ, and the diaphragm here. So it's just good, self-massage. But rolling it out can actually work these points. So I roll out every day. I roll out with the foam roller. I roll out with the double lacrosse ball. And I roll out with a single lacrosse ball, because as a chiropractor for 34 years, I've never ever met anybody who has a perfect spine, because I think of the spine as like a circuit breaker box. That if there's a problem with stress in the organs or stress in general, there's going to be changes in the muscles around the spine. The problem is the little tiny muscles that attach to the little vertebra, those are not under our control. Those are automatic muscles that are going to do what they do, and they're controlled by the brain. So here I wanted to just talk about, this was an article from the journal of Cell in 2008. And we're not going to get into too much of this here, the different chemicals, but I just want to go here at the top three problems that we need to deal with: inflammation, low energy, and insulin, IGF-1. And this is the only term, this stands for stimulating us, our body, to make our own growth hormone. Because as we get older, as men, our testosterone goes down and our growth hormone goes down. So exercise is very important. But here I just wanted to show how all three of these pathways, and let me move my little thing there, stress responses, energy utilization, and inflammatory responses are all controlled throughout by a few different supplements. One, resveratrol, which is the red wine extract, but the problem is, like, I take an expensive one and a well worth it one. It would take probably 10 bottles of wine to get what I have in one pill. So, two, curcumin, which is also known as turmeric, but I use a brand that includes BCM 95, so if you look for that. Green tea extract. So it modulates inflammation, it modulates sugar, and it modulates your energy. And then the last thing, the resveratrol. So we're still learning. You know, if the whole system was based on learning how to get and stay healthy for life, we wouldn't be dropping out PE classes in grade schools, wouldn't be selling junk food at schools. You know, gratefully for me, this is a true story. I stole a dime from my mom's purse when I was 9 or 10 years old. And then I went to the 7-Eleven and I bought a Slurpee, and I got a cherry cola one. You know, we fixed it. And, you know, it was great. And then I got home and my mom was there, and she goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's a Slurpee, Mom. It's cherry cola." And she slapped it out of my hands. She says, "Clean that up. That stuff causes cancer and heart disease." So my mom knew that back in 1969, 1970. And now we're just discovering it. And, you know, it's easy to get addicted to sugars. You know, a man is addicted to more stuff than ever. But try to make it a good addiction. So this was in New England Journal of Medicine, and they showed that the chances of cancer in sedentary, non-active males between 61 and 81 was 33%. But if you walked 1 mile a day, it went down to 13%. And if you did 2 miles a day, it went down to 5%. So 1/6 of the risk. And it'd probably take, I don't know, you know, half hour to walk that far. They also concluded that the death rate would go down by 50% if everyone in the U.S. walked 2 miles a day. If we talk about breast cancer, you know, 1 in 8 women will experience it. If they'll do 3 hours of exercise per week, it reduces the chance by 30%. But if they'll do 4 hours a week, which is 37 minutes a day, they reduce the risk by 60%. There is no drug that's going to give you a 60% reduction. Lifestyle will. So yeah, my final conclusion, you saw that, and freedom of choice. This is the freedom you have. Choose for yourself and either reap the benefits or pay the price. So the facts are, you choose your actions and foods and drinks and the thoughts that you focus on. Genetics are involved, but epigenetics too. Remember, epigenetics is that bad lifestyle brings out your bad genes. Good lifestyle suppresses bad genes. Most of the world is not cultivating true health. They're just surviving day by day, and disease is something for them that they think just happened. The food, water, and air are polluted, so you have to protect yourself. So you have to practice health defense. So who are you? What do you stand for? Will you take care of yourself? And I think I have to admit, I've been in practice a long time. I don't know if I ever inspired anybody to take care of themselves. I fix their problems for the minute, but a lot of people don't do what it takes, you know. I used to call this show How to Live to 100 and Not Regret It. So in the end, the last question I'll ask you is, what would be the result of your life? What is your legacy? The last little prayer. Today be grateful, be kind, and let go of what you cannot control. And that reminds me of what can you control? Yourself. Or in a lifetime of trying to take care of yourself. So I appreciate your attention and time. And if I can ever be of service, let me know. Thank you.